So there's this wonderful scene in the movie Black Panther. The setting is a waterfall at the heart of Wakanda, that advanced mythical civilization hidden on the continent of Africa. We know, you might recall, that Wakanda is powered by vibranium, that precious metal that absorbs energy and redirects it. And the heart-shaped herb gives the prince the heroic and supernatural power of the Black Panther. How many of you remember when Black Panther came out in 2018? We dressed in our kente cloth, we went and we saw it, right? So check it. T'Challa is positioned to become king, following the untimely death of his father, King T'Chaka. But there's a challenge to his ascent to the throne by his nemesis, M'Baku. And the tradition requires a fight to the death, but without the powers of the Black Panther. So there's this great gathering, you will recall, at the waterfall at the heart of Wakanda, and Prince T'Challa is stripped of his Black Panther powers bestowed on him by that heart-shaped herb. And T'Challa is getting his butt whooped. Like really badly whooped. And it seems that all is lost. And at that moment, his mother, Queen Ramonda, played by the incredible Angela Bassett, yells out to her son, "Show them who you are. Show them who you are." He has to dig deep because he is worn out by the fight. He is tired, and I'm sure that he felt like giving up. It's a turning point when T'Challa remembers. He gains new strength and realizes that the fight is not over when he recalls who he is and whose he is. And he is able to call forth something inside of him because his mother called out to him, "You are somebody. You are someone, and you are something to behold. Show them who you are." We're living in a time where it's not easy to be seen. In fact, everything about the present moment is sending a clear message. Hide and retreat into the shadows if you know what's good for you. It's a dangerous thing to be visible when an administration targets you based on identity. And visibility brings vulnerability. And the vulnerability brings untold risks. ICE raids have begun. And the threats of mass deportations are becoming more of a reality as military bases are being converted into detention centers for migrants. To be sure, the chaos is by design. As the architects of Project 2025 intended it. Flood the zone, they say. Make it an all-out blitz on everything we've known to be true. The intent is to confuse and to overwhelm and to disorient. Yes, this disorientation is a deliberate strategy of Trump's war on DEI, war on the poor, war on trans people, war on the migrant, war on us all. The manufactured chaos, yes, is precisely the point. And amidst this chaos by design, where there's a constant assault on virtually everything, which is very, very deliberate. While there are no easy answers to the grave problems that present themselves and manifest in so many ways, my prayer for us this morning, amidst all of the disorientation, is that we too must be very, very intentional to remain grounded and anchored and resolute in our story, in our song, in our collective and shared identity as the fog of war sets in, attempting to block our view and cloud our vision and throw us off balance. Because the smoke and mirror political strategy of making America great again is very much designed to create a sense of amnesia through the selective narration of the good old days, whereby there is a willful and intentional attempt to forget through a campaign of disinformation that blames a horrific plane crash on DEI. Amidst this disinformation, the attempted erasure of our diversity and our pursuits of equity and our pursuit to say, yes, everyone is included and everyone belongs. Amidst this disinformation, we have to dig deeper into our story, into our history, because Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History Week, which became Black History Month, made it clear in the Miseducation of the Negro, if you can control a person's thinking, you don't have to worry about their action. When you determine what a person shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what the person will do. If you make someone feel inferior, you don't have to compel them to accept an inferior status because he will seek it for himself. If you make a person think that he is justly an outcast, you don't have to order them to the back door. He will go without being told, and if there is no back door, his very nature will demand a back door. The Miseducation of the Negro. Carter G. Woodson says that real education means to inspire us to live abundantly, to learn to begin with life, and they find it and make it better. Education means to draw out, to call out, to remind one of who you are and whose you are. Queen Ramonda's words to her son, show them who you are, remember who you are. You, beloved, are a holy people, a royal priesthood, it is written in 1 Peter. You are consecrated and set apart to sing praises to the one who called you into the glorious night. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once there was no mercy, but now you have found mercy. Remember who you are. We holy and chosen people. By now, we sadly know that one of the most sinister battle attacks of the Trump White House is to target migrants and the idea of sanctuary. While there is lots of talk about the illegality of entering the U.S. without documentation, we know that the anti-immigrant rhetoric is but a thinly veiled anti-brown and anti-black worldview that bears all the signs of this historical amnesia, how easily it is to forget the original sins of the nation, that the first white people came to these shores without papers, and they stole land from the indigenous native people, and they enslaved others, and now we pretend as if that immigration policy would ignore some and welcome others. It's a scare tactic that manipulates the racial fears and scapegoats, parades a few violent criminals, and then substitutes them for the masses of law-abiding immigrants who are merely seeking a better life on these shores. And it's the epitome of privilege, what this White House can do to create chaos by executive orders that are matters of life and death. Because when you don't know vulnerability, you can puppeteer other people's lives out of a position of privilege and wealth and power. And of course, it ignores the historical reality that sanctuary, as attempts to remove the protected status of places like churches and houses of worship. It ignores the historical reality that sanctuary, by definition, were havens against the political whims of mad kings who were egged on by court gestures, who created an echo chamber. Churches were places to hide when violent marauders targeted you as enemy of the state. Enemy of the churches were places of safety. We must remember who we are and our story. As Christians, we must rigorously examine the meaning of sanctuary. Those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it, says George Santayana. Yes, the work at this moment is to excavate when the truth is being buried. As we come to table today, during this year of belonging, let us remember that sanctuary too is from the same root word, sanctus, that grounds the Lord's Supper, the ritual of Holy Communion. In fact, the segment of the communion ritual that we will sing out soon, holy, holy, holy Lord, God of power and might, heaven and earth are full of your glory, Hosanna in the highest, is called the Sanctus. Holy Communion is a celebration of our holiness, and at table we experience sanctuary, a place where we are protected and fed and dwell in the presence of God. Beloved, biblically speaking, the sanctuary is the physical space where God dwells. And in fact, the Bible's first mention of sanctuary is the Song of Moses in Exodus, the 15th chapter, after the liberation of the Israelite people from captivity in Egypt. The now free people are commanded to create sanctuary where the presence of God, the God of freedom, would dwell among the people. So by definition, sanctuary is a perpetual reminder of the freedom of the faithful. Sanctuary and freedom, sanctification and liberation are inextricably linked. This is all to say, while the attempted removal of churches from the protected space that were once off limits from ICE raids is, in fact, it is one of the most fundamental assaults against houses of worship and our identity as Christians. It's the most fundamental of assaults by the religious right against people of faith called Christians. And we must not stand for the grotesque ways in which one administration tries to manipulate and rewrite in the days ahead. We must show them who we are. And the tactic is to disorient and throw us off balance. We must deepen our spiritual grip in our historical understanding, because our calling as Christians is to create sanctuary. We are a holy people, worshiping a holy God who calls out the holiness in each and every one of us. We must be sanctuary for those who are not safe. We must be sanctuary for those who are vulnerable. We must be sanctuary for ourselves. Black History Month, beloved, is an invitation to a prophetic Christianity and a radical solidarity with the oppressed and the vulnerable and the marginalized. As Black History Month is a celebration of achievement, and it's a commemoration of struggle, and it's also a construction of a world, of a future that we yearn for in our hearts. During this month, we will draw from the ancestral wisdom in order to combat the present foolishness. Because Black history, it gives us guidance. It gives us clues for constructing this future where there might be flourishing for all. The search for sanctuary is found in the safety of Black history. Yes, Black History Month demonstrates that there is joy in the struggle and that there is a very real capacity to experience sanctuary amidst the circus. That there might be calm in the eye of the storm. Our ancestors created sanctuary. They called them hush harbors or clearings in the midst of the turbulence, in the midst of enslavement, clearings amidst slavery where the community was able to be reminded of who they are and whose they are. They were able to create sanctuary. Novelist Toni Morrison describes in that wonderful text, Beloved, the story of a community's matriarch, Baby Suggs, in the midst of the forest to gather the community in the clearing to create sanctuary. And remember that this here flesh, we care for one another. We protect one another. Yonder over there, the world may not see you, but here in this place, in this sanctuary, a physical place, yes, and a place in our hearts, you are seen and you are loved and you are loved into freedom. During this month, we will look at the contributions of Black people, and we will tell the story of how a people were called out from the pain, called out from the suffering, and created a place in their hearts, a place in community where we could gather. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, will be a living sanctuary for you. Beloved, this is our calling as we figure out in the days ahead, which will most certainly call out from us a need to be courageous and intentional and deliberate, asking us how far we are willing to go. What are we willing to risk? What are we willing to sacrifice in order to stand in radical solidarity to protect the vulnerable, to enfold those who are afraid, and to ensure that sanctuary is more than just a spiritual proclamation, but rather a real thing. How far are we willing to go? What are we willing to do? To our song this morning, as we remember the core of our identity, we holy people. Holy, holy, holy. Will we be the holy people who are called, who are chosen, who are deliberate in who we are and whose we are?